Hello, colleagues, and welcome to the next episode of DINCast, where this time I'm joined by the wonderful Geoff Burch to be talking about delivering a brilliant customer experience. Geoff, hello.
Hello.
Hiya. Nice to see you again. It's a long time since we've worked together, but for those people who don't know you, Geoff is an award-winning author, has been titled the Hell's Angel of management consulting, but we just call him Geoff the Business Guru. And he's here today to talk to us and enlighten us about, in a post-pandemic world, what does building a brilliant customer experience look like? So, Geoff, for those people, I'm sure there are lots of people who know you, but for those people who don't, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've got to where you are?
I'm a business guru. I go around the world guruing. It was all a big accident. I sold my businesses years ago and I started sales training. And the customer experience thing kind of spun off from that, because the sort of the power of selling can quite often generate a lynch mob. So we need to see how to calm the customers down when they've been victim of our sales force. So that's how it came about.
And in terms of sort of, you know, what you sort of now do, obviously, as I say, you're writing sort of educational books for people and things like that. You know, are you still out guruing as
well? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's never has a guru been needed more than now. I mean, I think people see me as quite a controversial, provocative even figure, you know. But I always picture myself like in the early Frankenstein movies at the top of a blazing windmill with with managing directors all with sort of pitchforks and burning torches, which is where I often find myself. So there we are.
So as I said, I mean, we first sort of met at least 20 years ago, and you did sort of quite a few sort of sessions for us then. So this was all about actually delivering a brilliant sort of customer experience. So 20 years on, do you think we are now delivering a brilliant customer experience?
No, we're worse. We're actually worse. That people put all these kind of formulas, you know, in to try and, you know, measure the customer. You must have done it. When you've been on the phone for 7 hours to try and get the refund from the holiday company that's got you stuck in a war zone somewhere, and it plays you that dreadful music from their advert over and over and over again. 4 hours later, you get somebody who puts you on hold for another 4 hours. And then when that's all over, you get a phone call saying, would you recommend us to a friend? Score 10 out of 10. And all this, it's called NPS, you know, which stands for something performance score or something. And it's absolutely insane. It's insane. I mean, the thing is, customer care training is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. So what they're trying to do is convert the customer experience into some sort of quantifiable thing. And they uncover training needs. So they see complaints going up. They see customers bailing out and going elsewhere as fast as they can. So they think they need to uncover a training need, right? Right, okay. So if a Mexican bandit pointed a gun at me and said, Senor, I'm gonna kill you if you don't mend my television, I go, well, I don't know how to mend your television. He would say, oh, okay, I will send you to technical college and you will learn how to mend my television. So fine, he's uncovered a training need. But if he pointed a gun at me and said, smile, be friendly, go to some trouble and be helpful, I could do that straight away. I didn't need training to do it. I just needed a gun held to my head, right? And the thing is, the willingness and happiness of the people in a company to realize that the customers is the only thing that brings revenue to them has got nothing to do with training. It's about the heart and soul of the company itself. So because companies have no heart and soul, they think they go off and nick somebody else's. So you get things like housing associations sending their HR department to Disney to learn the Disney way. Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. To get serious for a minute, what is the heart of Disney? right? The heart of Disney is in 1930 something, a clever artist produced a funny mouse. And everybody loved this funny mouse. And then the same guy was passionate about fairy stories and steam engines and having fun. And that was the heart of the business. It's almost like a dictatorship of happiness, Disney is. Well, the Housing Association wants to provide safe homes for people who are struggling with life. That's got nothing to do with fairy stories. It's the core value of the business. So when a carpenter arrives at somebody's house, he has a choice to make. The woman goes, "Oh, I'm glad you've come. The ceiling's leaking in the baby's room and all this stuff's got damp." The carpenter can say, "Well, it's not bloody surprising. These places are all jerry built. I've only got 20 minutes. That's all they'd allow me to fix this. So I'll do my best, but it'll be crap, I can tell you. They don't pay me enough to worry about you." That's his choice. Or he could say, "You're very lucky, love. You've just had the best carpenter in the north of England. I'll get your ceiling all fixed up lovely for you. You put the kettle on. And then when I get back to the base, I'll get my boss to send you a dehumidifier. After a couple of days, it'll be drier than Gobi Desert in that bedroom." He could choose. Why does he choose the first and not the second?
Yeah, and that attitude, or just...
Yeah, it's because he probably gets a kick in from his boss. That isn't seen as a core driving value of the company. Nobody even understands what the core driving of the value, the thing is. They don't know why they start. Nobody's ever sat back and said, what is it we actually do? They try and nick it. There's that fish thing. You remember the fish market? People throw fish. I went to a pharmaceuticals company where they'd gone on the fish course for throwing fish like the fish. And everybody had come back from this training program with a stuffed fish. And when one of your colleagues are grumpy, you're supposed to throw this stuffed fish at them, right? And I said, well, no, what you want is a pea shooter. You can shoot pills at each other because that's what you make. They were going, well, that's disrespecting the product. And I said, well, are the fishmongers disrespecting their product then by having fun with them? Well, we're not here. No, we're going to have fun with the fish, but we don't have fun with the pharmaceuticals because that's our business, And they didn't get it. So it drives me nuts. But before I know you want to dump me because we've got a short time, but I want to make a very big point here. We're going into choppy, rough water. We are going to be fighting to the death to keep our businesses alive. Some of the people listening to this are going to go bust. And some of the people here are going to thrive. You thrive by stealing other people's business off them, by taking their customers away from them. Now, if you want to protect your business, you can have your ideas stolen, you can have your customers stolen, you can have your staff poached, but one thing that can't be stolen is your brand and your service levels. If you have a sparkling brand that is supported by fabulous levels of service, your competitors can't touch you.
So in light of that coming down, and obviously the social housing sector well, there is no competitive market. You live in one of the housing organisations' properties, you're unlikely to be able to get up and move because of the poor experience. How do you then sort of motivate and inspire people to deliver service where we've got excess demand over the supply? How do you ensure they deliver a good service in that regime?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is that I wouldn't dare to say it to anybody but you, but as nobody will be watching this, we're saying, if you can't change the people, right? So, this business just recruiting anybody, I think that has to be a key to how you choose. But all right, so you've got the people you've got, so you're stuck with them. Then you've got to catch people doing things right. You've got to build. That's where Disney does do it. The most important thing in Disney is the Disney heart and culture. Like you don't have Like you don't get run over in Disney by a van with Sid's Pies written on it. Go and complain and then go in, oh, that's the pie man. It's nothing to do with us. He just did. No, once you go, if you're a supplier, once you go through the gates of Disney, you are part of Disney, you know, and you stick by the whole ethos and thing of Disney. So first of all, everybody listening to this, when I was a kid, I used to be so nervous and worried and upset that I couldn't sleep. Isn't that terrible for a kid? That was called Christmas Eve, okay? Now, a lot of people watching this have got their own businesses, or they've been made the boss of a business. The night before they started that, they were so excited they wouldn't have been able to sleep because of all the ideas they had, all the thrill. But they say when you're up to your ass in alligators, it's very hard to remember you set out to drain a swamp, you know? And you've got to set back and say, what is it that we do? What is it that is the heart of what we do? And then you've got to go around watching for your people delivering that. Not when they fail to deliver it, but when they do deliver it. And you make a point of praising and rewarding and noticing your people, you know. Bosses are so crap at acknowledging what people do. And if you feel unacknowledged, if you're just doing it for the money, then you don't give a shit, do you?
And I mean, you know, you've touched on sort of things there about purpose, which are absolutely critical to this. But has the pandemic, has COVID, and you know, the cost of living, has it changed customers' expectations? Do you get a sense that actually now people's expectations around customer service have changed as a result?
Do you know, the thing is, I made my first huge embarrassing fortune talking about customers, right? But that was 25 years ago. It was the fashionable thing. But I used to fly to Aberdeen regularly. That cost nearly 400 quid 25 years ago. And they'd rush at you with these beautiful big gloved hands and serve you your afternoon tea, because they were fighting for a plane load of people that had all paid 400 quid each. Now you can fly to Aberdeen for a tenner. You know, you virtually have to fly the plane yourself. You know, they don't give a shit about you. And there's a sort of formula that was up until this day that said, well, if you get a whingy customer, what's the percentage? Oh, I don't know, 5% of our customers hate us. Is this damaging? Nah, not really. There's so many millions of customers. You never see just one lemming, you know. There are millions of customers and they just don't care that they're on a plane full of vomiting drunks. You know, they don't care that they've been stranded in Faro. You know, we don't give a shit. No one gives a shit. But here's a recession coming, and people's money and the price of everything's going through the roof. So when I buy the one trip I can afford, I'm going to be very careful who I give my money to. And all these companies that believe that it doesn't matter, that you can put a call center in South Africa to deal with people. Look, here's my experience. I spent a lot of money on a car. I mean, it was my dream car. I bought a Mustang, a Ford Mustang. The trouble I had with Ford was just out of this world. I mean, unbelievably couldn't give a toss trouble. Well, I'll never buy another one as long as I live, and I'm happily publicized how rubbish their customer care was. It doesn't matter to them. There's a queue of people to buy cars, but that's going to end. And people will pay the price for neglecting their customers. They just haven't seen it yet. You know, there is a need to look after your customers. If you don't, you're going to go down the drain.
And you've mentioned again about sort of, you know, how we measure sort of, you know, customer satisfaction and things like that. Where do sort of key performance indicators sort of, you know?
Oh, I love them. Yes. I used to do, well, I still do this story about this company that they decided to set goals. They decided to set goals. And the the goal for the sales department was to get more. What is it, lads? More. We want more. So the best person, if you want more what? Revenue, more revenue. So if you want more revenue, the best person to be teaching you would be a mugger, wouldn't it? So he'd show you what alley to lurk about in, what sort of knife to carry. But on the other hand, the finance department, their big problem was bad debt. Bad debt. What should we do? Bad debt where people don't pay. What should we do about customers that don't pay? We'll set a KPI of 100% debt recovery. How can we achieve that? I don't know. Well, we could send every customer that's behind on payment, we'll send them a venomous snake in a jiffy bag, you see. So what you get now is the salesman arrives and finds the client slumped in their chair and a ripped jiffy bag with something slithering, horrible, under the radiator, And he thinks, well, the bloody accounts department's been here already. And then they decide what they do is they'll glue customer care onto the back of this, because they've seen people with customer care. They'll glue it to this KPI program. So what you get now is a mugger that jumps out at you, holds a knife to your throat and says, I'm Brian, your mugger for this evening. Thank you for sharing your wallet with me. Have a nice day. Missing you already. Now, the points that, again, I tell these stories to amuse, but the points from them are, first of all, KPIs are departmental. And as I've tiraded in the early part of this conversation, you have to have a single destination, a single core value. And you can have KPIs that contradict the accounts department will send threatening letters. They do send threatening letters to customers that you've worked for years to keep. Where's the customer care in a threatening letter, And then you'll have salesmen that are pushy and annoying to customers who've been doing business with them for years. And then you have lorry drivers that actually are abusive. You can't have, because the KPIs for lorry drivers is the quantity of stuff they deliver and the speed they deliver at. It's got nothing to do with customers. You have to have a central driving core value. And this business of trying to measure what happens in the end is that you start putting together things falsely just so you can measure them. Like how happy are our staff? 17.3. Is that good? Well, yeah. The people who work down the road, they're all only 14.25 happy. It's like, don't try to measure things that aren't measurable. Yeah. At the end of the day, is the business doing well? Are our customers going to do business with the whole of their lives? Are they going to bring other customers because we're so good they recommend us?
And on that, obviously, it's the people who are employed or who work there, the ones who deliver the services around that. Do you think that actually we're in an age now whereby they're going to have to learn or develop new skills for the era that we're now entering?
No, they just need to be friendly and helpful. That's all they need to do. They don't, it's a rocket science. I don't mind being called lovey. I don't mind being called darling. I go all over the world and I get called the most extraordinary things, I was in Jamaica recently and one of the people in a local bar called me Sweetie Pie. Hello there, Sweetie Pie. And she was, but this smile that lit the room up, making sure that I had a favorite thing that I had. She made sure that was always there because she knew I'd drop by. And when the day I didn't drop by, I had eaten by guilt because she bought me the donut that I loved and I hadn't come to eat it, And so what training do you need for that? To just be nice and kind and happy. But like you were mentioning social housing, they need to make it clear that they are working with lonely people, underprivileged people, frightened people, and their core values have to be reassurance, safety. We won't let you down. We're here for you. We'll listen to you. we'll not only will we come and do carpentry, but we'll look out to see if you're struggling with anything else. It's cold in here, lovey. No, I know I haven't got the money for the gas. Oh, dear me. And he'd come back and say, look, I've just mended this woman's roof. They can't afford to put the heating on in that house. Is there anything we can do? So you need a core value that's kindness. But if you're the Spanish Inquisition, you should recruit people who like using hot pliers, somebody who enjoys pulling toenails out. It's no good employing people that are in touch with their feminine side and aren't afraid to cry. Do you know what I mean? Whatever your business is, has to have the core value of the business. It has to have the I do motocross. I must be insane. But I went to a motocross day. One of the things you asked me before we started this, what companies are getting it right? And I was thinking none of them do. And then I thought, yes, they do. If you go to a place where there's an extreme sport, like motocross or downhill biking or windsurfing, the people who work there are probably passionate about the thing themselves. So when I went for a motocross training day put on by Kawasaki, they were all ex-world champions, all the people working there. And they dribbled with excitement about telling me the performance of the bike and how to sit forward on the tank, the whole bit. So I had a day of being immersed with people who were genuinely in love with what they were doing, and that's what made the day fantastic.
And so, like, we're getting towards the end of the DINCast, Geoff. But I suppose I want to pick up on one of the areas that you've talked about before, because again, it's relevant to the story that you've just told. At what point do we take people who are actually really, really good at their frontline customer-facing sort of role, and because they're good at that, they'll get sort of promoted around that? And I think I'm leading into the sort of, the work of the dog sort of story.
We haven't got time for that today, I said. My longest joke. I mean, as you know, I tell a story about this amazing dog called Worker that just kept working. And they used to lend it to people. And one day some guy came to borrow it. He can't borrow it anymore. Can't borrow the dog called Worker. Why not? Something horrible happened to it. What? It isn't dead. No, worse than dead. Worse than dead. What's worse than dead? Well, we changed his name. You changed his name? Worse than dead. What did you call it? We called him Manager. And now he just sits on his ass and barks. And actually, just before we finish, one of the things that's been very big is, of course, all the people being out of the office, out and working from home. And then there's been this explosion of like weird stuff going on. And the reason is that people have always been managed by British managers on process. If you can imagine a Premier Division football team being managed by British line managers, you'd have a bloke standing next to Rashford with a clipboard, pointing to the ball saying, where did you get this? Have you signed for it? I haven't received any email about what you intend to do with this ball, and now they've let all their staff go who are off trying to score goals for the business without any supervision. And they're still trying to manage on process when you have to manage on outcome now. That you have to manage people now with the way that people are probably less inclined to do what they're told. They're happy to work from home. They've got a mind of their own. Then you have to measure them on what they've achieved rather than how they're doing it. And that is driving British management round the bend, because they hate the idea that they didn't know how the person did it, Not how many customers have you spoken to today, but how did you speak to them? It's like, it's really quite fun. But again, if I can just take a moment, one of the problems that I see, and maybe on another podcast I'll talk about the solution, is there's this marvelous company. It's non-existent, that's why it's marvelous. called Fred's Pancakes. And Fred's Pancakes has been shattered by the pandemic, you know, and it breaks his heart because he's got a loyal, wonderful workforce who all love him. You know, they've all worked hard all their lives, and he's got about 40 of them making his pancakes in his pancake factory. So he said, well, I'm ruined. And then somebody says, you know, not really, because everybody has got a frying pan and everybody can do a bit of batter. Why don't you let them all make pancakes at home? And he goes, well, they're loyal, they're hardworking, they're going to do it. And this happens. But then Marion, who loves Fred, thinks she's the nicest boss in the world, but she also thinks a pinch of curry powder makes the pancakes that little bit better, right? But then Barry thinks a sweet pancake's the answer, and he puts a squeeze of lemon juice. And out of those 40 people, within 3 months, you have 40 completely different pancakes. So when people go to the supermarket to buy a Fred pancake, you never know whether you're going to get a chocolate one, a chili one. And companies are getting this, where they aren't managing their core value on their scattered staff anymore. You know, you get people who do the emails like they should do, but one lady likes to send hers out in pink ink. Why not? You know, and another one likes to do great big text, and another one likes to do small florid text. And the thing is, the businesses need to learn how to manage people without the stick anymore. You know, how do you do it without the stick? How do you control your output without the bollocking? Because people aren't going to be bollocked anymore. They're not going to put up with it. They go somewhere else. But you've got to deliver what you've got to deliver.
And that's a really interesting conundrum, and obviously we don't have time for that to sort of explore this in this sort of DINCast there, Geoff. But I mean, look, it's been lovely catching up with you. I mean, even after all of these years, I was going to say you've mellowed, but you clearly haven't, and you still you retain your enthusiasm for great customer service. So thank you very much for your time today, and
It's a pleasure.
Look forward to working with you again in the future.